We do have a lot of presenters who will be showcasing their work today. So get ready for some interesting and valuable insights. Let me go ahead and show you here. Before we proceed with the presentation, let's see. Yeah, so get ready for some insights. So before we proceed with the presentations, we would like to share a quote with you here. If you'd like to read along. This is from the Anasazi Foundation. Life is a journey. So if life upon Mother Earth is a journey, there are two ways to walk. We can choose to walk forward or we can choose to walk backward. Forward walking choices are rewarded with consequences that light the way to peace, happiness, joy, comfort, knowledge, and wisdom. Backward walking choices bring to the two-legged beings consequences of misery, despair, and darkness. I have learned that the point of life's walk is not where or how far I move my feet, but how I am moved in my heart. And lastly, we would kindly like to request for you to mute your computer's microphone so we can keep the audio clear. If you want to share your comments, please keep them in the chat. Also, if any feedback, everything, your questions, also please put it in the chat once the speaker has finished, as we are recording the session today. Please feel free to watch and again, enjoy. Thank you again for being here. And our first presenter is going to be Rachel Connolly, our Tribal ALTCS Administrator.
Good morning again. You can go ahead and proceed to the next slide, Charlie. We call her Charlie. I don't know if any of you on the Tribal Long-Term Care Program side know her as that, as Charlie too. So you probably some of you may be wondering who's Charlie, but we call her Charlie on our side. So you'll probably hear me say that quite a bit throughout this meeting. But I just did want to say thank you for everyone being here. I don't know about how many people we have here within the meeting, and I don't know if there are other tribal leadership that is in this meeting today. If there is, I'm very thankful that you all are here because I do want to acknowledge all the supervisors that attend this meeting. They do get a wealth of knowledge from these quarterly meetings. Sometimes we provide policy updates depending on what the updates are within that affect the long-term care programs. So typically that's what we go over at these quarterly meetings, any changes, any other things that is coming down the pipe for long-term care services. We try to provide as much information as we can to the program itself and to see what's going on with the program and see what's coming their way. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and start with the policy updates. These policies are currently under review with our ADs. Not only is it with the ADs within our AD within DFSM, but it's also DHCM. There could be finance that is also involved in providing some feedback to these policies that are being updated. And as for long-term care, we have AMPM 590 Behavioral Health Crisis Services and Care Coordination. That's under review by AD. When we're saying under review by AD, that means the policy work group team. There's selected members within the work group that typically provides the feedback and response related to what the updates are with that's going to be impacted. Most of these, I do know that a couple of these policies are opened right now under review because of the contracts that are, the managed cares are going through an RFP process. And what the contracts are going to impact, new contracts are going to impact those managed care organizations, their long-term care programs. So there are some things that they open up for those contracts to kind of align with the CMS requirements. Of course, many of you know that any changes or updates with our policy, we get a lot of direction from CMS, other updates are out there, or organizations that, are asking the state questions on what to change within our policy, or they have questions or concerns related to how we run specific areas of the healthcare. So that would be the reason why some of these are open. It's really good to kind of get familiar with it as a supervisors. On the tribal long-term care side, we really do ask you to get very familiar with the policy, because you are basically the first point of contact when your case managers need some technical assistance. They come to you, and we always try to align all of our processes to actually align with the AMPM policy, to ensure that we're following one document. We're trying to all do it a specific way to ensure that members are receiving services within our community. And if something is not working, if something is you would like to and prefer changes to some of these policies that are actually going to be posted after AD sign off. AD does have a lot of questions. When they review these policies, they'll come back and ask us specific questions on, hey, what did you consider this? Are you aware of this? And they'll provide feedback before it actually goes to tribal consultation. There'll be a notification on the agenda of what policies is going to be discussed during that consultation meeting. And then also on the public comment, there'll also be, if you're part of that work group listing, they'll send you notification asking, do you have any comments related to any of these policies that are currently open? So most of these policies are going to go, the projected effective date is going to be 10/1/23. After AD does review it, it gets posted. Everyone has their input on what changes they feel that needs to happen. They'll go ahead and make those changes. It'll come back to the policy work group team. And we, within Division of Healthcare Management and Division of Fee-for-Service Management, we will be able to provide a response to any of these policies that are currently open. So as you can see, I know for the sake of time, there are updates related to these policies. So each one of these policies. So just be mindful. I would encourage you all to look at these policies currently. That is online, review it. If there's any questions that you have related to these policies, you feel free to go ahead and contact me, and I'll maybe even go in depth. But like I said, all changes, we have to be transparent from the Medicaid standpoint. So any changes or updates, they will go into detail on it. So you're able to, if you are one of the work group on the program side, if you're involved in the policy updates or policy notification, you'll have some time to be able to review that within the public comment period. And as I said, it'll also be presented at tribal consultation. So please let your leadership know, if your leadership is the one who attends these, to pay attention, or maybe to even share some of the updates that are out there. But currently, these are the second bullets are basically the reasons why these policies are open and why we're actually going in and making these changes. So next slide. I think I'm over my time already, but
Rachel.
So yes.
Rachel, this is Casey. On that durable medical equipment, the 310 policy. I haven't looked at it or anything, but there's, as far as like some equipment, there's I have always had some, I guess, concerns. For example, when somebody's like on a ventilator and the equipment just gets authorized for 3 months, then another 3 months, it's like a lifetime diagnosis and like the need. And I know that the script is good for a year, but would that be an area where some of those could be presented as potential changes, as far as changing some of the requirements, as far as, because it's really cumbersome just to get that off like every 3 months?
That is not only a concern that was brought up on the long-term care side, but that is also a concern that was brought up on the DDD side. Basically meaning it's coming from the programs themselves, also coming from even the family members are concerned. You know, they have to wait for that authorization, and there's always a delay in the delivery of services. So it just all depends on our clinical nurse. She reviews all of the documents and information. It's a case by case. If you feel like, you know what, this needs to, because we can't do that for everyone. You know, if we were to do that for everyone, there might be a member who might not need it for long term, you know, and so it's a case by case situation. So that is something that as a supervisor, when the submission is happening, I would really encourage the supervisor to communicate with the nurse who is actually reviewing it, and maybe we can come up with an internal process yourself. So I do understand where what you're talking about, Casey, because that has been brought up to us. With our members, it's different. You know, they're on these services for longer term than they would if a person was maybe just getting some sort of rehab, or you know, they're just in a point of their life where they need these services temporarily. So it's a case by case. That's how we've been handling it within the unit. So that might be a discussion that is based on the individual member. So that might be an additional discussion that we might have to have, you as a supervisor with our clinical nurses, and then we can, we'll know what to do moving forward with those individual members. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, you can go on to the next slide.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. Our next presenters are going to be Maria. She's the Tribal ALTCS PA nurse.
Next slide, please. And welcome, everyone. So my presentation is no PA required. When AHCCCS is a secondary payer, there is no PA required. Next slide, please. Next slide. Oh, there we go. For medical equipment appliances, this is for ALTCS members less than $500. Consumable medical supplies less than 100. The case manager will need to add directly to the service plan. Next slide, please. No PA required for hospice. Hospice care is covered for all terminally ill members who meet the specified medical criteria and requirements. Assigned case manager will need to add directly to service plan. Next slide, please. No PA required for occupational, speech, and physical. Inpatient services, this is covered for these services already included in the facility authorization. Outpatient occupational and PT services refer to AM/PM policy 310X for limitations. The assigned case manager will need to add directly to service plan. Next slide, please. For oral supplement, commercial oral supplement, when member main food intake is by mouth nutrition. For example, if the member eats 0 to 25% of food by mouth, contributing to weight loss, the doctor will prescribe additional supplement nutrition shakes that help improve nutritional intake. In this case, the assigned case manager will need to add directly to the service plan. Next slide, please. When other coverage is primary, so if the member is Medicare primary, third-party insurance primary, and AHCCCS is a secondary payer, then no PA is required. Next slide, please. Acute care services for tribal ALTCS members. Acute PA requests for tribal ALTCS members must be faxed into the DFSM number 1-602-256-6591. Case managers will not get a response from the DFSM. Providers will need to log into their provider web portal for PA determination. If a provider gets directed to you, educate the providers to submit requests for acute services to DFSM. If the provider states they are being informed to contact case manager by DFSM, please request a name of who they are getting the misinformation from. Next slide, please. Again, this is my contact information. My direct line number is 602-417-4070. The fax number 602-254-2426. The PA office number is 602-417-4400. And then there's my email address. Next slide, please. And Vanessa, she is the program manager. And this is her direct line, 602-417-4169. Her fax number is 602-254-2426. Office number 602-417-4400. And her email address. Next slide, please. Thank you. Any questions?
I think there's 2 questions in the chat, Maria.
Okay, let's see. Hello for clerk. When a member is nursing facility and needs PT, OTST, and payer is ALTCS only. ALTCS does not that does not authorize EPT. No, it's included in their stay when they're in a SNF, the nursing facility. Okay, Tuba City. A lot of information return missing form, but PA form is attached. So a lot of the times when I do get a PA packet, it's either supporting documentation or the RX is missing. If it's a wheelchair, we want a seating eval, and that's where I go into saying that I need supporting information. You just have to communicate back with me if you're not understanding what part is missing. I hope that answers your question.
Maria, no, when the fax goes out, and I think that it's an automated machine that kind of redirects the whole fax back to us. And it says you're missing the proper form, like the cover page, but it's on there. I don't know why it's not catching it or something. So it's happening quite frequently with a lot of PA stuff that we send. Then we end up refaxing it, and then usually it goes through, but it's happening frequently.
If you're having trouble, just let me know. And Vanessa has her hand raised. You want to say something, Vanessa?
Yes, that's from the scanning department. If you're getting that message, if you can just send me a message so I can reach out to the scanning department to see exactly what it is they're seeing that's making it get rejected. Sometimes I feel like if the fax is kind of off, it might set off something on their end, but usually they can back search on the day as far as when you're getting those messages from them, and they can look into it to see what's going on with the fax.
Do we have any more questions?
I was going to say, Casey, on I do know, well, I have heard that some of the case managers are still using the old form. And so that might be something that you might follow up with your team. I know you probably are, but just to make sure and double check, because there are some requests where they're actually using an old form, and our scanning team, they actually are utilizing the new form. They're making sure that the new form is attached when they're receiving these faxes. So we do have new people too also. So if they weren't trained to, with those forms, they would not be familiar with it. So I would double check with your team. But again, always reach out to Vanessa if your fax is ever returned. Also, my team should also be updating the CA-165. In the event that they are receiving faxes, there should always be updates put into the service plan comment screen. So that way you're always aware of where at is your PA requests.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we have our next presenter, Lauren Cullen. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. My name is Lauren Kahn. I'm the health program manager over our case management team with the acute plan, Access DFSM. So today I'm going to give you guys an overview of serious mental illness. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide, please. A serious mental illness, or SMI, is a designation, not a diagnosis. It's something that's determined in individual ages 18 or older. However, at age 17 and a half, members that are transitioning to adulthood may also go through the designation process. SMI is a chronic and long-term mental health condition which impacts a person's ability to perform day-to-day activities. Individuals living with this serious mental illness may need additional support because their mental health impacts their ability to function. SOLARI is the statewide entity who conducts the SMI determinations. However, as part of the IGA, some TRIBAs or Tribal ALTCS programs may have the ability to conduct their own SMI determinations if they choose, or they may also have the choice to go through SOLARI, the statewide vendor. All right, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So this slide tells you which ICD-10 diagnoses qualify for to go through the SMI determination process. So I've grouped the ICD-10 codes according to the family that they fall under. So you have your anxiety disorders; those are all the F codes that would apply. Bipolar disorder, dissociative disorder, depressive disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, other mood disorder, personality disorders, post-traumatic stress, and psychotic disorders. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So those are the diagnoses that somebody has to have. However, that diagnosis alone isn't what determines if somebody is living with a serious mental illness. They also have to meet the functional criteria for SMI eligibility. So the serious mental illness must result in either an inability to live independently without adequate support, a risk of serious harm to self or others, a dysfunction in role performance, or a risk of deterioration if adequate supports and services are not provided. Criteria must be met for 12 months or be present for 6 months with an expected continuation for an additional 6 months. Co-occurring substance use disorders do not automatically disqualify a person from receiving an SMI evaluation or designation. Oftentimes what will happen in those situations is that the person will undergo a period of abstinence or see how long that they're able to abstain from the substance in order to complete that SMI determination process. From time to time, they might need to pause the determination to allow for that abstinent period to assess whether the member meets the functional criteria for SMI eligibility. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide, please. How does a determination process start? Well, it can pretty much start anywhere. The SMI determining entity SOLARI, Crisis Human Services, they can receive those requests from any healthcare decision maker, provider, Access Health Plan, a TRIBA, Tribal ALTCS, Arizona Department of Corrections, Arizona Department of Juvenile Corrections. And then there's some providers out in the community like Crisis Prep and Recovery. They assist a lot with those SMI evaluations and partner with various tribes, TRIBAs, and assist with that determination process if somebody doesn't have a healthcare provider that's able to assist with records and doing an assessment. All right, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So you as a provider, you're helping your member and you want to see if they go through the determination process, see if they might qualify as a person living with a serious mental illness. You would submit those records, consent for assessment, a waiver of a 3-day determination form, release of information, additional records. You would submit it through SOLARI's portal here, and this is a screenshot of what it looks like on their website. SOLARI receives that information and then they begin to do their process. So the day they receive the information starts the clock. That's day 0. And then they have 3 days in order to get everything together and get ready for an assessment to happen. If somebody is inpatient, They like to expedite those requests. That way they can go out to that facility, work with the hospital, and conduct that assessment piece before the member's discharge. They have to have the consent for assessment. Without those consents, this can't be processed. The only exception to that would be for court-ordered treatment applicants. And when that happens, the court docs and approved treatment plan are required if the applicant does not consent. SMI designations will remain on the eligibility until the member no longer meets criteria. Members who change to other health plans will continue to have that designation. And then members have a choice which health plan they want to be part of, and they can select a clinic that they wish to receive their behavioral health services through. They can also receive it through other providers, the TRIBA, Tribal ALTCS. All right, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So this slide highlights the denials and decertification process. So an individual who does not meet criteria will be provided in writing a decision on the denial reason for that SMI eligibility. They will also be provided information on the appeal process and receive information that they may continue to receive their needed and covered behavioral health services. Decertification is a process of removing that SMI designation from a member's records. So there are two ways to remove it. SMI clinical decertification occurs when the individual or representative from their clinical team requests the decertification through SOLARI that the individual no longer meets SMI criteria. So that criteria, again, would be that diagnosis and that functional. Individuals have the right to appeal, and decertification will occur 30 days after the written notice is issued. SMI administrative decertification is for the individual who has an SMI designation may request an admin decert from AHCCCS Division of Healthcare Management Clinical Resolution Unit if the individual has not received behavioral health services for more than 2 years. AHCCCS DHCM will evaluate and review data sources to determine when the last date of behavioral health service was. If it has been more than 2 years, the individual will complete AMPM 320P Attachment C determination form and return to AHCCCS for review. However, if the individual has had behavioral health services within the past 2 years, the individual will be notified that they may seek decertification through the clinical decertification process and direct them back to their clinical team to work through that. Anyone that is going through the appeal or denial process is heavily encouraged to go through the special assistance with the Office of Human Rights. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So some resources for individuals living with a serious mental illness. Biggest thing is to get them connected with their SMI clinic, case managers, intensive wraparound supports. Some may have ACT teams, which is the Assertive Community Treatment Team. They're out in the community with the members and heavily engaging in those intensive wraparound supports. Some members may get access to non-Title 19 funds, which is the housing pathways, so community living placement, permanent supportive housing. I mentioned on the last slide talking about special assistance. Members that are living with a serious mental illness can get an advocate through their health plan. For Office of Human Rights, or OIFA, Office of Individual Family Affairs, at AHCCCS are the ones that lead that initiative for special assistance. They also work with the other health plans on that advocacy and ensure that that is carried out amongst the different plans. They provide the special assistance for our fee-for-service members on the acute side. I've linked up here, and you guys should have a copy of my notes here for the special assistance FAQ. So if you want more information on how to, the advocacy component, on how to get a member and advocate, you can look at that information. I also have linked up to AMPM, Access Medical Policy Manual Book 320R, and the process to request that special assistance. The biggest component of OIFA, OHR, is member choice, member voice. And so they're able to also participate in the clinical staffings. They're not the clinical team, they're voice and choice for the member, but it's a great resource for individuals living with a serious mental illness. All right, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So as of 10/1/2022, members living with serious mental illness may now receive both of their behavioral health and physical health through one payer source. American Indian Alaska Native members may choose AIHP or TRIBA. That's for our acute side, obviously not Tribal ALTCS. They can also choose to be part of the Access Complete Care Plan, ACC with REBA services. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So our AIHP and TRIBA members living with a serious mental illness, I've got some data here from December 2022 and March 2023 just to see general overview. In December, we had 334 individuals, and in March 2023, we had 1,388 individuals living with a serious mental illness amongst our TRIBA and AIHP plan for the acute health plans. We'll go ahead and go to the next slide, please. And then this just is a little bit more about my team. Our DFSM care management team, I'm part of the case management function, again, for our acute side of the house. We do not provide direct member level case management services. Our role and function is to assist with closing the loop, care coordination. We reach out to SMI clinics, behavioral health clinics, the TRIBAs. From time to time, we're reaching out to Tribal ALTCS too, so you might see our name or email on some cases that we may have some assistance and support that we're doing. We also do crisis notifications. We get the admission, discharge, transfer notifications, send those out to TRIBAs, behavioral health plan, SMI clinic, AMIs. We attend clinical staffings as requested and help with the health plan discharge resources that may be available to members. We also assist with making referrals to high needs, high cost, Tribal ALTCS. That's where you might see my team as well, is this member. We think there's some trends in utilization that we're seeing, and they might potentially benefit from being part of a Tribal ALTCS plan. And so you might see us reaching out, asking for assistance. Requests for assistance may also be sent to our email address, casemanagers@azaccess.gov. And then on the next slide, I've got some references for everyone. And are there any questions for me? Yes, Yvonne.
Yeah, it's not a question, it's a comment. I not only stand here in the reservation, but also individual off the reservation, especially homeless people, also with the immigration coming in. And on the reservation is that it's hard to, yeah, we can get those diagnoses, we can get an SMI, but it's the family members who doesn't want to be accountable for the person. Also don't want to say that I have somebody in my family that's crazy. They just don't want to acknowledge that there's an issue in the family of any sorts. And so it's kind of hard to, what you presented is really nice, and it seems like it's nice and easy, streamlined, but when you go to the people individually, especially with the family members, no one wants to take the advantage of it to get some help. And also with, you see it on the news constantly. Somebody that has mental health issues, been in behavior health for a long period of time, they get out within 3 or 4 months and commit a crime, killing somebody. Actually with the shooters, active shooting, killing people. It's a big issue, not just on the reservation, but also off the reservation. And I wish that that more advocacy or people that really wants to get help and knowledge, that will help a lot. But right now, no one wants to admit, and no one wants their family members to be considered as crazy. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that.
I do have a question, Lauren. For the login for Solari in the portal, do you have, or whoever is actually submitting that determination request, do they need to have a login ID or create one?
Yeah, it would walk them through that. So there's a way that they could get registered, and then they would be able to have access to submit the documents for the member and follow up as well.
Okay, so that would be probably for the tribal long-term care program. That would be an information probably you will need to share with your family members, you know, in the event, because it is always members' choice or healthcare decision makers, you know, discuss it with them and they can probably work with their providers. I'm pretty sure the providers know that process, but just educating the member and providing that information to them, I think is really important. If it is an easy walkthrough process, to submit that request, it'll be really helpful. So please take this presentation and you know, utilize it as much as you can. If you feel like that a member may need help, there's a lot of resources and additional support a member can have. So it was really good information. Thank you so much, Lauren, for presenting. And these are basically from some of the questions that we typically receive during or after the quarterly meeting. So she is here to answer any of your questions. If you have any, please don't be shy. We do use Lauren and her team not only for the SMI portion of it, they do share a lot of information with us when it comes to our long-term care members. They'll reach out to us and ask us additional questions related to behavioral health services. We do use them as a support. I know that many of you do not have the behavioral health clinical nurse team or nurse on your side. So we within our tribal ALTCS unit, we do not have a behavioral health nurse or a clinical person that can actually really thoroughly review some of these. So we rely a lot on our DFSM team, other units within our division that will assist us in reviewing those and making sure that we're making appropriate decisions for our members in placement, services, coordination, and along with, you know, utilizing our own internal team. So you do have that support. So if any questions you have, or if you're working on a behavioral health case, if you need that support, let us know. And like I said, we do have awesome people here that will provide that assistance to us if needed. So if you have any questions for her, please feel free to take this time and ask her.
Hey, thank you, Lauren. Thank you for your presentation. We will get a lot of information off that. Thank you again. Our next presenter is going to be Eloisa.
Hi, hopefully everybody's doing good today. My name's Eloisa. I'm with the NEMT Transportation Department. Next slide. Transportation providers are eligible to provide transportation to tribal ALTCS members. NEMT reimbursement is dependent upon the code billed for reimbursement, not the fee-for-service member type. There is no difference in reimbursement between fee-for-service and ALTCS members. For further information, refer to the link listed regarding rates and billing. Non-emergency medical transportation is covered consistent with AAC R9-22-211 when furnished by non-emergency transportation providers to transport the member to and for medical and behavioral health services. Transports over 100 miles will continue to require an authorization from the Access Prior Authorization Department for acute care members or from ALTCS case manager for ALTCS members. Only codes for base and mileage will be authorized. Providers may bill without obtaining a prior authorization as long as the total mileage billed does not exceed 100 miles. Next slide, please. Transporting family members. NEMT transportation of family members is not permitted. A family member who either works for the NEMT provider as a driver or in other capacity or owns an NEMT company cannot bill for transportation of an immediate family member, child, spouse, parent, etc., for whom they would reasonably be expected to provide transportation services or for a family member living in the same household. For example, a mother who works as a driver for the NEMT provider may not bill for providing transportation to the child. For further information, you can refer to the FFS Provider Billing Manual, Chapter 14, and the Arizona Administrative Code R22-211 on page 22. Next slide, please. A tribal business license, NEMT on reservation. All non-emergency medical transportation providers that transport access members, pick up, and drop off on reservation were required to obtain a tribal license from the tribe. A copy of the tribal business license must be submitted to Access Provider Registration for documentation. Refer to the next page for a tribal license list. Next slide. And here's the list of transportation providers that can provide transportation for ALTCS members. And they do go by the tribal license. Next slide. Here's the Navajo Nation providers. Next slide. Again, Navajo Nation continued. Next slide. And they do have other providers. All these providers can provide transportation to the ALTCS members. Next slide. Again, these providers also can provide transportation, but they do not have a tribal license. They can only provide transportation off the reservation. Next slide. Tribal ALTCS members report complaints. To file a grievance or make a complaint, please call Access Office of General Counsel within Maricopa County at 602-417-4232. For statewide, call 1-800-654-8713, extension 74232. For general questions and fraud reporting, OIG Administrative Assistant number is 602-417-4193. Next slide. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Eloise, for your presentation.
You're welcome.
Again, to all the programs, I know Casey probably has quite a bit of questions for you, so if you could just stay on the line.
Yes.
Yeah. I had a question. Recently we got a request for the client is not on board, but for example, from Tuba City, a client, let's say, was in Flagstaff Medical Center being discharged, and the family lives in Tuba City, so the transport was leaving from Tuba City, going to go pick up the client in Flagstaff or discharge back to Tuba City, and they wanted authorization for the family member to be on board, and they gave a code. I don't remember specifically what that code was, but looking up the information with that code, we found out it is a billable authorization and billable transport. So that was kind of, it seems like it was already there, and it was just kind of surprising.
And it's to pick up a family member?
To pick up a client, and they get paid for transporting the family member to go pick up the client.
I know we don't cover that. The member has to be in the vehicle in order for transportation to be covered.
Okay, because we did look up the policy and the code, and it is there. So I know we worked on it with Sonny, and I showed her, and maybe we can kind of look at it a little bit more. I don't have the information right at hand though.
Yes, if you had that code, I could look at. You can send me a message, and then I can look at the code, and then I can refer back to you later.
So Eloise, I think this happens quite often in the tribal communities, where especially for those members who we've just recently experienced, and I know you were part of that discussion, where a member maybe was flown to out of state, and they, for whatever critical acute care services that they needed, and so now member needs to come back to maybe a nursing facility or maybe even an HCBS setting. In that instance, the facility where they're at, a hospital, it could be a hospital, the majority of them were hospital, and they were being discharged from that hospital, and the member needed like a companion care or a care provider that needed to come back with the member to make sure that they come back safely, because the transportation driver their job is to transport the member, not to provide that additional support for the member. Typically, it's usually like maybe a direct care worker that would be assisting in transporting that member back to the state or from an acute care setting back home into the tribal community. So I think that's what they're talking about.
Okay. If it's something for the care and the member needs assistance there for someone, then I think it would be covered. I just have to do further research just to make sure before I say anything.
That makes sense. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, then on my end, I'll look through my email, look up that code that the DME or the NEMT transport provider provided us.
Okay, and you have that code?
Yeah, I just had to look it up. I was trying to look it up while you guys were talking, but I can't find it. So I'll have to look through my email.
Okay.
So, Casey, why don't you go ahead and send that to me, and I'll forward it over to Eloisa.
Yes, and I can then I can do some research.
Thank you both for that, and thank you, Eloisa, for this. And Beatrice also has her hand raised. Go ahead, B.
Yes, I just wanted to say that I think that, having to transport family members and individuals that are living, other relatives that are living, I think that happens quite a bit on the reservation. And we keep talking about how do we, now it's good information that they can't transport, but that's been happening here on the reservation. And I think that there really needs to be a lot more monitoring on these transport, because they're abusing, to us, they're abusing, the service with the transport vehicles that they have, they're assigned to. They're transporting family, like to town when they don't have, maybe transportation schedule. They're using that as their own personal vehicle, transporting family members. There are also drivers who take along their spouses on transport, and that's not correct. Not appropriate either. So I just would recommend that more stringent monitoring be performed on the transport portion of the services.
Yes, I agree. Thank you for that information.
And B, if you could send me the transport companies, we can actually submit that over to our audit team, and they can actually do us. So if you could do that, that would be great.
All right. Okay.
Thank you very much. And Christina has her hand raised. Go ahead, Christina.
Hi, I just had a question. Will the transportation policy be revised? We have some Southern tribes that have the issue of obtaining transportation companies on their reservations. And their members do get flown out quite a bit to California and Nevada. So it is hard to try to find transportation to go to those states to obtain those members to transport them back to their reservations. And when we go down that transportation listing, most of the transportation companies will deny that request, stating that it's not worth it to go out to Nevada to pick up a member to transport them back to their tribal communities. And they were informing us that the rate that Access is paying out or just doing it one way is not even beneficial for them to take on that task. So will that policy be revised, or is there something in place where we would need approval if a company is saying like they can do it, but they are requesting payment to go out to Nevada and then go out to the tribal community to drop off that member?
I'm not sure about the policy when it's going to be revised, but we are working right now on a list of providers that do outside of the areas. Example, if they're going to pick up a member in Chinle and going to Las Vegas to pick up a member that's being discharged, we have some companies that do provide transportation. But right now we are in the process of creating that list of what providers do go outside of the areas.
Okay, I think that would be good.
Okay, and we can share with it once we are finished.
All right. Okay. How often is that transportation listing updated? Because we go down the transportation list for our case managers go down that transportation list. But one community that we service, they're stating that they don't have any transportation drivers in that area. So with the listings, most of those companies are saying that they refuse to provide transportation in those areas. So right now, the only resource in that community would be CHR. So is that listing updated pretty often?
The listing on the Access website, the one that I just shared on the link, is sometimes updated monthly. We try to get that. We don't update it, but we do contact provider registration and get them to update it monthly. But what area is it that you're having issues with?
Colorado River Indian Tribe out in Parker, Arizona.
Okay, so, yes, in that area, we do have about 5 transportation companies.
Okay, if they're refusing services, is that something that would be justified to file a grievance on? Because it's been an ongoing issue, and CHR is also having that issue. So we've been communicating to try to arrange transportation for our members to their medical appointments. And one of the issues is most of the members in that area, they have their appointments in Phoenix. So again, it's the same thing. They're saying that it's not beneficial for their company to provide transportation going from Phoenix to Colorado River Indian Tribe, back to Phoenix, and then back to Crit, and then back to Phoenix, if that makes sense.
Have you tried Tristan Transportation? Because they
that's one of the companies that we've been trying.
Okay. We can do some research and try to find transportation companies within that area. It just will take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And then I can get that information to you.
All right. That would be helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. So Christina, this is Rachel. Have you been working with your tribal ALTCS coordinator with these issues? Because it sounds like this isn't something that came up yesterday. It sounds like it's been going on for a while now.
I haven't reached out to Cheryl. We've just been communicating with elderly services and CHR to see what type of resources will be available. And we've been trying to brainstorm on how to get these companies to provide transportation for their members. So it hasn't got to Cheryl yet. We've been just trying to work with the tribes there to see what we can do first.
Okay. Once you, like, if I'm pretty sure, I know there's a couple of other tribes, not just transportation services, but there are other services that were in need in the tribal community. When you come across that, and it's because some of these members do need to get to their critical services that they need, and you have no time to waste. You really do need to schedule those transportation. So we have been saying throughout these meetings with every services that your community members need. It's always good to go down the list. And yes, unfortunately, there are some providers that will say, no, we don't provide services to the fee-for-service population. They have a right to say that. They have a choice to provide services to our community members, because of they're not familiar with the community. They're not familiar with the tribal, laws, because they do have to go through their tribal business, obtain a license from there. There are other requirements each tribe has, and we don't know every single requirements within the tribes. So it would be best for them some of them, it's just not even worth the time for them to do that. So it's a case-by-case situation. If you do have a member who continues to receive routine services and you have that challenge all the time, it's always great to reach out to Cheryl and or whoever the coordinator is. Sometimes Cheryl's out, and you could also, CC Sonny on it, and we could start working with our transportation team, let them know what the barriers, the issue you're coming across, and also the team can also provide that support and education to the provider and let them know, because sometimes they don't know the billing process. They don't understand the fee-for-service population. So sometimes we do have to do an education on our end on the access side. So there's a lot of things that can involve, these conversations that you're having with the provider themselves. So it's always good to reach out to your coordinator and let them know what is going on so that they can help you and assist you, even establishing your own provider list. These lists that are provided, it's not updated every day. Where it's just a list at a high level, and where you take that list and you can do outreach. If they're already doing business with one tribe, maybe they'll do business with the tribe that you oversee. So having that information is really good, but that's a very high level review of all the providers they have reached out to. But please take it upon yourself, take that list and maybe start doing your reach out and be prepared when those services are needed to be coordinated for the members.
Thank you. And Janelle has a question. Do you see that, Eloisa?
No, let me see.
Okay. It's on the comments. She says NEMT providers will continue to say not contracted, or say they use a third-party portal only and could not accept our referral for member who live off reservation. Appointments are off reservation. If the NEMT is access provider, why do they continue to deny our tribal ALTCS members?
They might think that they're not able to provide transportation because the members ALTCS. If you have a transportation provider with that, they can reach out to you, and then you could reach out to us, and we can go ahead and contact that provider and educate them and let them know that this is something that they can provide transportation for that member. A lot of them just may not be aware that ALTCS and fee-for-service are the same thing.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yes. Thank you, Eloisa. And
you're welcome.
If you have that, continue to have that problem, reach out to Cheryl and or myself, and we can also get Eloisa involved if we need to on some of those cases.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I think the first thing that each of the programs need to do is reach out to their their business, the tribal business license first, because there may be only a limited. I know that one of the tribes, I believe White Mountain Apache, they do limit how many providers conduct business within their tribal community. They monitor it very closely. It's just for the health and safety of the members, making sure that the providers that they do business with are culturally sensitive, understand the language. They go through a process within White Mountain. So Janelle and Tio, I would recommend that you go through your tribal government and or your business relations office there within your tribe and ask them, do they provide the license to them? How do they go about it? And making sure, because some of these providers, maybe they were denied to provide services and within the community. And that's where your tribe really needs to understand that these critical services need to be provided to members. So if they're limiting the providers coming in, there's only so much we can do from the access standpoint or from the provider's standpoint too, because they're not going to force their way into the tribal community and say, we're going to do business with you, whether you like it or not. It's really up to the tribe. And due to, us respecting tribal sovereignty, if there is a requirement for tribes to say transportation providers have to go through this process, it's really up to that tribe to decide who's going to be conducting business on their tribal land.
Okay, is there anybody else that has any questions for Eloisa? Okay, so let's go ahead and take a break for 10 minutes and we shall be back. We'll be back around 10:22.
Thank you, Charlie.
Okay, welcome back. I would like to introduce our next presenters, Bandana Chetty and Cheryl Begay, our Tribal ALTCS Case Managers Coordinators.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you very much for all your feedback, your questions. That really helps us to improve the processes here that we have access. So thank you for that, and welcome. Our presentation today, I'm sorry, but Bandana Chetty is out today, so I will be the only one presenting our slides. And our slides are going to be regarding the person-centered service plan, goal setting, and developing outcomes. Next slide, please. So with person-centered service planning, we talk about quality of life. This is the main task of the person-centered service plan process. So what the case managers do, along with working with your coordinators, is to ensure that the member knows all options, resources that are available, because they want to make informed choices, and they have the positive control for the life each manager, tribal member wants. Secondly, assist member to develop personal goals, short-term and long-term. And lastly, as a Tribal ALTCS team, develop an action plan to help our members achieve these goals. So as we stated in the past, we always say that case management is an ongoing service. There has to be an action plan for goals set at a 90-day period or a 6-month period for each member to be focused on that goal to ensure positive outcome for the member. Next slide. So I'm going to present this scenario, and this is going to be where I need engagement from all of you out there. Please use the chat function or raise your hand and with your feedback. So this is the scenario. It's a 98-year-old tribal member who was admitted to a SNF in May 2022. She was there through late July 2022, give or take 4.5, 5 months. The member has arthritis and is known to have dementia. These diagnoses are on the CA 165 on your PMMS screen, but also keep in mind that these diagnoses may be from when ACE was still a thing with access eligibility. So 98 years old, arthritis, and dementia. The member was residing with family in Utah, and then they provided informal support there in Utah after discharge. In February of 2023, she returned to Arizona to reside with a daughter. The daughter will be her mother's direct care worker. The hours assessed by the H&T guide tool will be 8 hours per day, 7 days per week. Remember, H&T is a guide tool. Do not always assume that the time, approximate time, is what is all that member can get. This is just a tool to guide the member and the family to determine what they need regarding how much time they need regarding assistance with their ADLs. The member is total care, and attached is the person-centered service plan, the UAT, and the time study. The member's daughter reports the member has behaviors such as resisting care during activities of daily living and pulling on her hair, imagining that she has bugs. So again, we're talking about goals. And when we look through the person-centered service plan, page 14 of the person-centered service plan, there is section 5 that does talk about goals, and there's two there's 2 areas that on that form that you can come up with 2 goals. And 2 goals, preferably you're going to prioritize which goal related to the scenario. So now I'm going to give you about 3 to 5 minutes to think about this, and what would be your primary goal for this member? What would be your secondary goal? And it is now 10:27. At 10:30-ish. Please put in the chat what would be the primary goal and the secondary goal. Thank you. So we want to always keep in mind, again, that case management is ongoing. We need an action plan, and we need goals that are measurable, goals that may be short-term up till the next review date. And you want to especially go around your member-focused goals. What the conversation is, which is person-centered service planning, is a conversation with the member each time you visit them. It's a conversation and information gathering from what the member tells you or what the member themselves express, what the family tells you, if the member is unable to express their own needs. If you have any if you have any comments that you want to put in the chat or raise your hand, please do so. And then we will move on. I don't see anything in the chat. Anybody have any comments?
Cheryl, this is a really good scenario. I know we're really focusing on when we're doing the operational reviews, we're really looking at person-centered planning and how you're working with the member and engaging with the member. As supervisors, you do provide that support to your case managers. So don't feel that, you know, my question may be stupid, it may not sound right. Please feel free to throw your questions out there, because we're here to support you and kind of help you as a leader on how you can support your case managers. If there was a scenario like this that you're reviewing as you're doing your case file audits, this is something you really do need to be looking at the PCSP and making sure that you're asking these questions of your case manager. So please take this time to look at this scenario and ask any questions that and how you would answer some of the questions that Cheryl had proposed to you.
Thank you, Rachel, for that reinforcement. Yes, most definitely. Some of you have already completed, your team has already gone through the OR process, the audit process. And I just want to let you know that with the new CES reports that we're starting to work on, these packets will be highly scrutinized regarding goals, case management action plans, risk management. So I just want to say that in some packets I see blank pages. So that's kind of why we decided as coordinators to see what we were looking at, see what was trending across the board, and this was our topic for this presentation. Okay, so we're a little over time, and again, anybody with a priority goal for this member? Thank you, Niana. For the member in this, to be safe in the environment. Oh, awesome. Awesome, Niana. That is a great response. And anybody else?
In her behavior.
Anybody else with a secondary goal? Awesome. Awesome, Beatrice. Thank you for that. Okay. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the blank page of the form. It's in it's the exhibit 1620-10, section 5, page 14 of the 29 pager. Next slide. So in discussion, Bondan and I did go through we put our thinking caps on and we went across this and we talked about it, and it's all, again, a learning process, you guys. We all learn from each other. You all as case managers can relate to a tribal member with this type of scenario going on. And so we had to think about it. We had to think of diversity because not all tribal members are alike. They are all totally different. Hence, person-centered service planning. So the individual goals and outcomes that we decided for this member is daily life. Yes, on a daily basis, the main goal is that the member will remain safe without falls and injuries for 90 days, for the next 90 days. And that is one of the most priority goals due to her age, due to her arthritis, and especially due to her dementia. So don't always go by the older ICD-9 diagnosis that's on the PMMIS 165. Listen to what the member's telling you. Listen to what the family is expressing to you. Then you go and assess from there. So what the outcome that we want from this is that the tribal case manager will monitor the goal, ensure the family / the daughter who is the in-home DCW understands safety, the safety goal. That's the priority for grandma right now. And then the next thing is, where are they now at this time of this plan? So the day you go see them, what you want to do going forward now with your next 90 days, please, we really strongly recommend that you really take a look at your goals, reassess them, reprioritize them. So going forward, for an example for this scenario is initial goal established is due to the history of a fall. Remember, she was in a SNF because she fell. So they got her back out home where they want her, where she will have that quality of life to be with her family and in her own home. So you're going to express that to the family because the member has dementia, so she doesn't have that level of understanding. And what you're going to say is that you told the family this is going to be the initial goal. And you're going to ask them, please, if something happens within the next time I visit in 3 months, let me know. If she gets hospitalized, if she falls again, let me know. Then that way you're going to know that you educated the family on this goal and that what you want for an outcome is wellness for her and her quality of life to remain in her home. Then you're going to also say, okay, family, do you understand this? Daughter, do you understand this? She's going to say, hopefully, yes. And she may say no. And then what are you going to do? Case management, ongoing. You're going to, okay, how shall I rephrase this to help her verbalize the understanding as a positive goal for grandma's outcome within the next 90 days? What needs to be done? So some of the things you're going to educate on is put away the rugs that are in the home. Rugs are really high risk for members, elderly members in mobility. They're high risk for falls. Keep the place lighted up, hallways lit up, lanterns on, flashlights, whatever it may be. In our situations in Indian country, we have some members that are without electricity. So we're going to find ways. There's possibility of bed alarms. It's a little device you put under the mattress or under the sheet, and as soon as the pressure comes off of it, it sets us off an alarm to say, hey, there's no more pressure on here, the member's out of bed. Locks on the doors, anything, handrails, all those kinds of things are what needs to be done. Education on the risk or the interventions that can be done. The home environment risk for falls, that's what I'm talking about. From the carpet or the floor. And then also, if she's going to be up, ensure that the member has skid-free shoes, tennis shoes with rubber soles, even the booties with the rubber grips at the bottom that they always give you when you're admitted to the hospital, well-lit areas. And most importantly, this family caregiver is being paid to care for her mom. So most likely she is going to be right there. She is going to be right there supervising and assisting with the mobility, the transferring, and things like that. And then we're going to go to who will do this. Well, the first person is going to be the paid family caregiver. When? Daily, because she's getting 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. Next, who will do the next thing? We're going to incorporate, hopefully, informal support, because 8 hours a day, 7 days a week is a lot for one caregiver. And so sometimes these caregivers need respite. So informal support is always encouraged. It's always an educational topic for your reviews so that all the family knows that, hey, you know, to keep grandma at home and preserve her quality of life, we need everybody's help. It's going to take a team. It's going to take a village. When? Daily. And then the last one would be, okay, you know, does grandma have the potential to get any kind of PT or muscle strengthening? Some PT clinics now do have fall prevention clinics. They help with increasing muscle strength. They help in teaching mobility or body mechanics to family members and families. If that needs to be done, then case manager would, you know, say, hey, you know, are you willing? Do you think we can do this? Is non-emergency transportation available for her so that she can go to the clinic? I know in Indian country that's not really realistic because of our geographical areas. Okay, Chin Lee right now, prayers up for them. They have flooding. So maybe getting her out to go to the clinic to get the PT or occupational therapy. Those are the things that every person-centered service plan goals should be thought of, considered, and acted upon, initiated upon. So that is great. Thank you for that, Nyana. You get a gold star on that. Second gold star will go out to Beatrice for behaviors. So, okay, now, when I talked about ICD-9, arthritis, and that diagnosis, that was probably maybe even when she was 870, let's say, for example. Now she's 98. And through this, she's developed dementia. And what we'd like to see is an updated, documented medical diagnosis of dementia. That helps a person-centered service plan assessment. That helps the family with what they need to be educated on. That most importantly helps the assigned case manager, because you are the ones, I am the one looking at these to say, hey, you know, this is going to be the secondary goal, the behavior. So grandma is pulling at her hair. She's thinking that she has bugs in her hair, and that's a concern expressed by the daughter. So it's very important. So where are they now at this goal? It's daily life again. She's pulling on her hair. What needs to be done? Critically thinking, what can I suggest? What can I educate? What resources can I get for this family caregiver? Because not only is it 8 hours a day, a member with dementia is extremely challenging and tiresome. So we want to make sure that grandma stays in her home, stays where she wants to be, but we also want to ensure that family knows how they can help. So the one thing that we want to do is what needs to be done. Obviously the member, and I see this a lot in different packets, they have a diagnosis of dementia, but they don't have any medication to slow down the process of dementia. For grandma, she's already in her end stages of dementia / Alzheimer's, and they're not gonna, they don't want to have her on meds. So she's just acting out. She's got these behaviors. So you look at it and say, okay, what can you do? You look at that grandma from head to toe physically, you know, what is happening here? Grandma, maybe her hair is just tied back, or, you know, I don't know, maybe it hangs down, whatever it may be. Those are very important observations and assessment also. So let's suggest, hey, you know, maybe caregiver, when you're grooming her, braid her hair, you know, put her hair in a traditional TA, a bun. Most importantly, continue to redirect her that there's no bugs there, and she'd be okay for a little bit, and the next thing you know, she's going to be doing some kind of behavior again. Secondly, you know, put her Sani scarf on her, put a scarf on her, put a cap on her, anything to try to distract her from pulling her hair, because if she starts pulling her hair out, there's another risk of infection. If she's pulling the whole hair follicle out, you know, you don't want that for grandma either. When it's coming to bath time, you know, condition the hair just to make the scalp, you know, not itchy. That might be it. I don't, whatever it is, there are interventions, there are education for this, and right now it's a specialty. Dementia Alzheimer's is a specialty for our elders. There's so many resources out there. So again, the who will do this are going to be areas where, again, it's going to be with the paid caregiver, the informal support, and lastly, you may have to talk to the family and the doctor. Maybe she does need something for her behaviors. And I'm talking about, you know, medically, maybe a medication, you know. So that would be the last resort. They're just kind of like looking at keeping her comfortable at home, but trying to really work on these behaviors. I know in some areas there might be nothing. What you're going to do again is revisit, did the interventions I gave you, did it help from the last time? Then you're going to move on from there. So at the next 90 days, I see a lot of progress on goal areas that are blank. Please, please, there must be some kind of progress. If there's no progress, document it. We'll try something else. We'll do something else to try. We're not just going to leave it blank and say, oh, leave it, you know. 90 days might come and you're going to ask about the secondary goal, and they're going to say, well, oh, it helped, you know, it helped, you know, with her pulling at her hair, and that's a goal met. Maybe you want to keep it, maybe you want to close it right there now that they know going forward, or you might leave it open for the next 90 days, 6 months, and they're still better on that behavior. Maybe then you'll close it and then you'll pick another behavior. So that is basically kind of in a little tiny box. It's so huge and it's so individualized that there's goals that can go on and on. But right here, we want a primary and secondary goal for each member. Next slide. Okay, thank you. And so again, person-centered service planning are primary, secondary goals. So in conclusion, again, the members' quality of life, such as interests, preferences, hopes, and dreams, drive the positive outcome for each member. A good life for the tribal member. In doing so, there must be family and community involvement, tribal resources, traditional and spiritual preferences, and informed consent by members or the parties who are involved in the members' decision making. The expectation within all services should be one of listening, discovering, communicating, and support for what really matters most for the person receiving these services. Next slide. Thank you so much, and I can entertain any questions, comments at this time. Okay, do we have any questions? Thank you. Awesome, thank you. Yes, thank you, ladies. No questions? Anybody? You guys were doing so well with Eloisa and SMI.
This is the time for people to ask questions, especially related to the new person-centered planning tool. There are a lot of areas where, you know, even the risk area, if you look at the risk area, it always goes back to, should we make these risks, maybe we need to make it part of a goal, you know? So as you're going through the person-centered planning tool, you know, this is a time to talk with the member about goal setting when we're talking about risks, and these are directions and instructions provided in certain areas of the PCSP. So if there are, you know, questions you have now related to, you know, setting goals, you know, is it medical goal, personal goals? What is it? You're asking, your case managers are asking specific questions. If it could relate to a risk, maybe you can make it a goal related to that risk. So it's a good time to have this discussion because we haven't been out auditing. I mean, we haven't done a audit on even 50% of the programs. You know, we just started, but these are areas that we're seeing. So please, if you have any questions related to goals, now is the perfect time to ask questions.
I see a comment in there regarding the high caseload that prevents quality case management. So as we prayed for in the opening prayer, yes, we understand the challenges out in Indian country. Coming out of a public health emergency, we understand that. And then on top of that, having operational reviews coming up, we get it. But as a state agency and as federal government, because of where our services are, excuse me, are reimbursed from, it's just like a perfect storm. Everything's happening at once. We understand that. At the same time, we all here at AHCCCS don't feel that there's any ineffective case management, quality case management happening. You guys who are all here, who have been here for years, many years, you are much appreciated, and we appreciate your dedication and hard work. These are only, if we present on something like this, it's not for me to say, oh, you guys aren't doing well, you guys aren't doing quality care, quality case management. It's not that at all. It's the part where places on a document that was initiated by a CMS initiative, the Person-Centered Service Plan, we can't leave areas blank. It's really important that there's some kind of documentation thought of, that the Person-Centered Service Assessment was being, you know, done effectively. And I get it. I get it. I was a case manager before. A lot of it right now can be if your offices are experiencing short staff. It really depends on you guys. All put your best effort in. You do what you can with what you have. And those are things that upper management, upper leadership within the tribe, it has to be addressed with, because these aren't only the tribal ALTCS programs members, they're tribal members, they're Navajo Nation members, they're San Carlos Apache, they're Pascua Yaqui members. With that being said, you know, it has to be a leadership toward sort of partnership within to say, hey, we need these positions filled. And a lot of that is out of your control. A lot of times we don't have qualified applicants, or there's an HR service that the different, or they bottleneck you hire somebody and then you're waiting for a background check. And it takes so long that when you're finally ready to backtrack, they cleared, that person has already gone to another job. So we get that, and we are not, you know, we're only trying to help improve processes and bring these trainings to kind of enlighten everybody to say, okay, here we go now. You know, come May 11th, May 15th, when the person-centered, or oh my gosh, when the public health emergency is lifted, it's going to be face-to-face. So we really actually need to do this, like if you guys already haven't been doing person-centered service planning face-to-face, it's almost going to be like a new initial visit again, because you're out there getting to reacquaint it with your members. Telephonic reviews, we know they're not, you know, as effective as what going out and seeing the environment. How has it changed? So those are things that, and I thank you for that comment. I just, you know, want to ensure that you guys know you guys are doing a great job through all the challenges that we've all had, and we really appreciate you. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you. Any more questions? Okay, and you know, reach out to us. Bonden and I always help each other. We talk to each other, you know. So when you have a question, that's considered technical support if you can't resolve something within your office with your supervisor. Thank you.
Thank
you, Cheryl. Well said. So I would like to introduce our next presenter, JD Simon.
Hello. I didn't know I was going to be put after Cheryl. That's a tough act to follow, but I will do my best. So, hi, everybody. I'm JD Simon. I'm a quality management nurse for DFSM, and thank you so much for inviting me. I know a lot of you in this group from my previous stint as a Tribal ALTCS prior authorization nurse, so it's good to see a lot of your names on here. Shannon Shiver is a quality management manager. I know he's presented to this group in the past. He may or may not hop on. He's got a lot going on right now. So you can go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So our unit consists of 3 nurses, myself and 2 others, as well as the quality management manager. We are responsible for investigating providers involved in health and safety incidents. Meaning if there's something going on with the provider that could cause the potential for immediate harm to that member's health, we go out into the field and see what's going on with that. Depending on the outcome of our investigations, we have the ability to recommend suspension or termination of access registered providers. We also review incidents submitted into the quality management portal and conduct quality of care investigations. Some of our tools that we use to conduct our investigations are review of medical records. Sometimes we'll get those from the HIE. Sometimes we have to request those directly from the providers, and we look at claims data and so forth. Next slide, please. So the Access Policy 961 is one you'll want to take a look at. It's only a few pages, but it's important. It discusses the reporting of incident, accidents, and deaths. So some of those include medication errors, allegations of abuse or neglect, injuries sustained to the provider, suicide and deaths. We want those reported. And then there's a whole list of other conditions in that policy that you can take a look at. Reportable incident should involve an access registered provider and obviously an access member. So we are only getting involved if it is an access registered provider. And I noted that they can be submitted, reviewed, and closed at the health plan level. So we'll take a look at the portal in a little bit, but essentially, there might be some incidents that you report as a reportable incident that you can go ahead and just close out on your own. So we don't always have to get involved and do a full-scale investigation. Sometimes, they can be simple incidents such as, maybe a medication error and the member wasn't really harmed, and the provider notified the physician and all the appropriate steps were followed. If you have that information, you can close them out at your level. Next slide, please. So here's just a snip of the quality management portal. So one big thing I want to encourage all of your different plans is to register on the portal. I think some of you have and some of you haven't. But there's the website up at the top left there to get to the portal. And then at the bottom is circled where you're going to click to create a new account. Next slide, please. And then so you're going to have a master account holder sign up. So you'll enter your health plan ID and your tax identification number. And it says right there at the bottom, the master account holder for each health plan grants permissions to other users. So that's really dependent, upon each plan, how you want to operate that. We don't tell you how to do that in the QM department. But each plan would have at least one master user. And then from there, they have the ability to give other users permissions as they desire to do so. Next slide. And so here's just an example of a QM portal view. I'll point out some of the different fields that you can search by, member's name, ID. You can sort down by dates, eligibility categories, different things like that. So it's also, a tool that you can use you could see how many incidents you had in one particular month, or you could enter a provider ID and see how many incidents they've had over the course of a year. So there's different ways that you can use the data that might be helpful to you. And then on the top right, you'll see help and support. So at QM, we are users of the portal. So we're not, we don't own it. We're not masters of it by any means. So our ISD, our ISD has contact information, their phone number and email address. If you have any issues, like when you're going to sign up or whatever the case may be, ISD is who you would want to reach out to, and they can kind of walk you through that. And then there's user guides and different tabs that you can check out and just kind of get a feel for what's on there. They talk about how to open a case, how to close a case, and some of the little bit more technical details are covered under the FAQs. The next slide. So that's really all I had. I'll take any questions that you all have. Again, the main thing is we want to encourage you to sign up for the portal to report your incidents. We do have incidents that come our way via other channels. Some of you have found the form on the Access website to submit concerns, and that's fine. Those eventually get routed to us, but the QM portal is just a more direct route. We're on that, checking that every day, and it doesn't have to go through other departments to get to us. So I just want to point that out, and I'll try to answer any questions that you have.
Go ahead, Yvonne.
Yeah, this is not I guess it's not really serious, but then again, it depends on the care. I just was informed by someone that they have a member, family member in a long-term care facility near us here on the reservation, and an elder, they noticed an elder was being cleaned, the private area, and instead of using wipes or a washcloth, they went and got a paper towel, wet that towel, and wiped the private area. To me, that is kind of, it can lead to a problem. You should use a washcloth, even though it may take more washing to do, but you don't use a paper towel for that, especially in a private area, because you can also get a rash from that, and it can be too harsh, and it can scrape the sensitive skin area. I told the family members to report it to the facility, and this is a hearsay, so I can't report it because it's a hearsay, but I encourage people, if they see something like that, please talk to the director of nursing or anybody, quality manager, just what you have seen, and maybe they explain or whatever, but it's a concerning that people are not being I guess, nice to a person, especially in a nursing home, is to encourage everybody to talk to the facility first and see what you can help prevent any damage. Thank you.
Yeah, I like thank you for that example. And I like what you said about talking to the facility first and the director of nursing. I think that is a great place to start. Sometimes we'll get complaints and the facility has no idea that an incident even occurred. So I think that's great to let the director of nursing go. So that was good advice. And, a lot of times we do have family members report things to us, and that's fine as well. In those cases, then we notify the facility that we've received a complaint, and depending on what it is, we might request their policies and procedures about, say, personal hygiene care, infection prevention, bed sore prevention, whatever the case may be. We'll look at their policies and procedures, and we'll want to see documentation that they're following what they say they're supposed to be doing. And again, depending on the specifics, we might make recommendations on changes that they should make, or let them know that they're not doing things as per best practices in the medical field and so forth. So yes, I think you handled that one appropriately, and thank you for sharing.
Okay, I don't think we have any more questions. Thank you, JD.
Thank you very
Rachel
much.
does.
Hi, Rachel.
Well, hi, JD. So I am going to ask a question, I believe, on behalf of some of the tribal long-term care program. So if it is a member concern, because we've had some issues like that. We know that we're talking about providers right now submitting when there's a concern against a provider, it would be submitted into the portal for QM, right?
Right.
In the instance of a member calling the state regarding the services, case management services that they're receiving at the program level, would that be like, say, if it was, I would take to say hypothetically, reducing services, critical services for a member, would that be considered a QM reported? Because I'm pretty sure family members, healthcare decision makers, or even the member themselves would not know to go to that portal. They would be submitted as a member concern, but it's related to a case management service. How would that be looked at from the QM level? Or would you just, as it has been happening, it just goes directly to one of my team members, myself or one of my team members, when it's related to case management services?
Good question. So yeah, if it doesn't involve an access registered provider, and if it's a family member making a complaint, they're obviously not going to be able to go through the portal. So that's where they can, on the Access website, under the Members and Applicants tab, click that link to report concerns about quality of care received. And I think some case managers as well have found that form and have submitted family member complaints on there. Those eventually they come to quality management if it's one of the fee-for-service plans. They're routed to us. And then if it involves something, a complaint about a case manager, that's typically, like you've said, in the past, we forwarded those to your area. That's not something, that's more the area that you're over and the area of your expertise. If it's about appropriateness of placement and things like that, I'll look at what records are available, and we have the ability. We could also reach out to a case manager if needed with specific questions. But for the most part, we're going to send those to your area for review.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's been going on. And as for tracking purposes, it may come from the member itself, and then it goes through the regular process and it gets to you. And whether it gets to you through that process that they used on the website, or it may come to us verbally on our end. So does your unit maintain any tracking mechanism on your side? Even if you send it over to us for resolution, of course, we have to provide you the response to close that case up. Is there anything that you use on your side to track these concerns that are coming in?
So we use the portal for that, the quality management portal. We don't, that's our main source for tracking. As I mentioned, some of the areas of sorting in terms of, member IDs and provider IDs and those sorts of things. So when you're registered with the portal, you should be able to put in a member's ID and see a specific case that was created. So if something comes through us first, and even if we are sending it or forwarding it to you, we still enter it into the portal, if nothing else, just to log it, to track it, to say we were made aware of it, and to say that we forwarded it to Tribal ALTCS for follow-up or resolution.
Okay, that's kind of what I've already communicated to some of the programs. And so the important thing is, for the long-term care programs, they really need to register, they need to sign up, they need to be able to access the portal, in anything that they want to, anything that was captured on our end, they'll have the ability to review certain things to an extent, of course,
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. Yep. That was well summarized. And I was going to make a point, but I forgot. But yeah, sometimes, sometimes case managers will ask about if we received a complaint, or, what the resolution was, that gives you the ability to go into the portal, and, you can see that it was captured.
Okay, so is there only one person from each program that can sign up, or can there be multiple, like an administrator person, or can there be multiple supervisors that can actually go in and set up, access to the portal?
So each program will have a master account holder, and that person will need to be the one to go in and register. The master account holder then has the ability to assign or delegate permissions for other people within the program. So it might be that an administrator wants everything to go to them and they will report complaints directly. It might be that they want each case manager to have their own login and to report their own individually. So we don't tell you how to do that. The minimum requirement is that each plan has one master account holder, and from there, then they can assign permissions to other people within their plan.
Okay. Thank you so much, JD. So any of you out there, any of the plan leadership, please make sure that you register. There were some questions that we received, and that's the reason why we provided, we wanted to bring this back again. I know, like JD had mentioned a couple of years ago, Shannon provided in-depth on how to sign up for that portal, and that you have to have a master account holder. If you haven't done so already, please make sure that you do sign up, because it'll provide you information. It sounds like at some point in time, you'll have more information, data. You can probably run numbers of what's going on, what providers, are there issues and concerns related to, your members. Please do so, because it's really helpful on the QM side, especially when it comes to placement. When you're hearing maybe it's a certain area in your GSA that there's issues and concerns that you need to be aware of. So please make sure that you create that and establish that within the next couple of days. If you have any questions, let us know, and we can work with JD to get those questions answered for you.
Yes, thank you, Rachel. And I know in the past, people have run into some bumps in trying to register as a master account holder. ISD, there's a couple of staff that are really truly experts in it, and they're pretty responsive to help you get signed up and to steer you in the right direction. So don't hesitate to call our ISD department if you have any trouble when you're signing up.
Hi, JD, there is a request could you provide the link in the chat?
Sure. Was that for the QM portal?
Yes, for the QM
okay.
portal.
Yeah.
Thank you. And they're talking about to register.
Okay, I'm going to drop it in the chat right now.
Thank you.
And then that should, if somebody wants to try it, that should take you to the home page, and then that should on kind of the left middle area, there's create new account.
Very good.
Thank you, JD.
Thank
Christina,
you.
hopefully that'll help you get registered. And anyone else also.
Well, thanks so much for inviting me. And yeah, I look forward to continuing to work with you all.
Thank you, JD. You've always been a really good asset to us. So I really appreciate the presentation.
Thanks. I appreciate you all. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Okay, thank you, JD. And okay, so our next presenter is going to be Sunny Fisher, a program manager for Tribal ALTCS.
Hi, thank you. I wanted to first talk about that members, healthcare decision makers, they all have a right to complain to AHCCCS at any time that they feel that there's an issue, or that with their care, with their service, whatever, regarding a case manager, a tribal program, or provider, whatever, they have that right. So that is something that they can do. In addition, AHCCCS also gets complaints from providers regarding case managers, tribal programs, etc. But always, AHCCCS must remain neutral. We must remain neutral. We always reach out to the tribal program. And so we always ask the tribal program to make an outreach to the member or the provider in an attempt to resolve at your level. That is really not our place. That is something that, and then we always ask for a resolution of how that complaint or issue was resolved. On our end, we keep a spreadsheet so that we track the complaints, how they're resolved. And so that's what this is about. This is, my presentation is going to be about that. So kind of wanted to lead into that, as that's what this is about, and how we here at Access, how we handle this. We're not going to tell them they cannot complain to us, they can. But we do remain neutral, and we turn it over to you guys to resolve. And many of you have had us reach out to you and say, please attempt to resolve this. Okay, can you go next? Okay, so with all that being said, tribal programs should maintain their own spreadsheet of any member issues or concerns that they can utilize to record any member issues or concerns. And that spreadsheet should have specific information. We're not going to tell you how to create it, but it's something that you guys should have at your hands. That way, if we ever come to you or you need to look back at it, you have a list. But that should list what the date that it was brought to your attention, who at Access brought that to your attention, the member's name, the member's Access ID. Go next. And it should be whoever the assigned tribal case manager is, and a description of what the member's concerns are. And then what outreach was attempted to resolve the member or provider's concern, what worked, what didn't work, and the date that it was resolved satisfactorily to all parties. And then an email response back to Access regarding the resolution, and if the member was satisfied. Most of the time, you guys are able to resolve these issues at your end. Sometimes it takes some diplomacy, just as it does for us. We have to be diplomatic and try to understand their side, but understand also your side. And then that should also list the date that the email response was submitted to Access, so that you guys can look back at that. Go next. Okay, so again, the purpose of the spreadsheet would be able to pull that data whenever it's requested, either by Access or maybe by your own leadership. Maybe they are asking, can you tell us what's been happening with these complaints? How are they being resolved? Are they being resolved at our level? And should the same type of concern, we know each member is different, but they all seem to have some of the same concerns, and it could be a member, it could be their healthcare decision maker, whoever it is. But you can also refer back to that spreadsheet and say, hey, that's what worked, that's what didn't work. And maybe you need to, as we said, each member is different, so maybe a different course of action has to be taken from how it was resolved with one member. Some of the members and authorized reps can get very angry, and some of you have some really great diplomatic ways of being able to resolve issues, and that's incredibly important, and speaks to your ability to resolve these things at your level, which is very good. And I don't know that we had any that continue on and on. We do have some family members who get extremely angry about things that you and I know are probably things we can't control. But the things that we can control, and a way to de-escalate a situation, that is really important. And we don't try to resolve it at our level. Sometimes we may have to get involved to assist you, but it is really up to the tribal program to resolve that at your level, if at all possible. And then if it is a quality of care concern, that's when it should be submitted to the QM portal. And that's something that the quality of care, as JD just alluded to, they may come to us and say, can you also provide some outreach to the tribal program, the case manager, and we may do that to help them resolve whatever the quality of care concern is. The main thing is that our members get the care that they need, and that we make sure that any services, critical services, are provided. But you just do the best you can. And you guys are awesome, really, really awesome. But just find a way to track that on your end if you're not already doing it. Okay, next. I really don't have anything more than that, but I'm welcome any questions if you guys have anything you want to talk about. Okay, well, if you think of something, you can always email me later. I don't have a whole lot else. I just wanted to, make sure that we are in collaboration with the tribal programs, that we make sure that things are resolved. But these are our mutual members, and all of us, that's what we want, is our members to get the care that they need. As Cheryl noted, as Rachel noted, as all of these people have noted in this meeting here, we have some elderly members who are very fragile, and sometimes they need a delicate hand. And some of you are really, really good at that. Many of you are very good at that, and you have case managers who are good at that. So we do appreciate that. Thank you very much. So Diana, in regards to your question, it can be done by each office. It probably would be good if you guys had one where you could share and put it all on there. But that's up to you, how you want to handle that. The other offices are maybe just have one office or two, but you guys do have multiple. So however works best for you. If you guys have a way to share a spreadsheet amongst you, you could all put it on there. That would be probably good, that anybody could access it if a supervisor was out or whatever. Does that answer your question? Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Sunny. Thank you so much.
Sure.
So our next presenter will be Rachel Connolly, our Tribal ALTCS Administrator.
Thank you. Golly, we went through this agenda, lots of information that we all received today. And it's just, I hope that we continue to provide the information you all need when we're doing these presentations, getting and collaborating with other divisions within our fee-for-service management team. We try to be as mindful as we can when you all are actually submitting your requests for, hey, we need a brush up on this, we need this support, or we need more information on a specific topic. We always try to do our best to collaborate with other units within Division of Fee-for-Service Management. Their schedules are very busy, just as much as you all's schedules are. So it is really a privilege to have them here to be able to present to you all and to provide you with a little bit more information when it comes to those areas you or your staff is challenged in when coordinating services for the members in your community. So It was really good based on the last follow-up questions to the quarterly meeting. These are the feedback that we receive from each of the programs, or some of the programs, I should say, said, hey, we need more help in this, or we need more clarity in this area. So that's why we brought them all together. A couple of them I do, well, actually, I think one of them that we were wanting to have them present at the last quarterly, but they were really busy. They were booked up in their schedule. So it's always an honor to have other subject matter experts within our division provide a presentation to this group in hopes that it will help you to improve in your areas, or in hopes that you all will be able to get the knowledge that you need from these trainings to either enhance the program at your level, to add additional resources, be an advocate as a supervisor, as a leader, be an advocate for the program for your team members, and provide that support to your leadership to ensure that members are receiving these services where there are gaps. That's the main purpose of these meetings. So if there's a challenge that you're having at your program level that you're not able to meet due to what is outlined in your IGA or what is outlined in your policy manual, please speak up to your leadership, let them know your concerns, your issues that you're having, because all we do is provide the information that you need according to what is required by CMS. And also in our policies, in our presentations, you did see the Arizona administrative codes that are coincide and align with the CMS guidelines, and then it trickles down to the policies. So please get yourself familiar with those, because it really does help for you to advocate for your team members at the program level. And let your leadership know these are the guidelines that we follow. These are the rules and regulations that we follow. And policies are really related to what is being communicated from CMS. So there are issues and barriers that are totally different than that could be expressed on the managed care side of things. It's a little bit different on the managed care, where a lot of the resources, long-term care services, are available within the members community on the managed care. So it's a little bit more simpler to coordinate these services if we're a managed care member. So some of our team members here in this meeting come from a managed care organization. They are now experiencing the barriers and challenges, and some of the team members that you have here have worked for one tribe and long-term care program, and then maybe transferred to another long-term care program. The challenges and barriers are different between each of the programs. So I always like that expression that Cheryl makes, it's not a cookie cutter. Not everything is the same. Everything, is different from a program level, services within the GSA, to members with different diagnoses, with different needs, long-term care service needs, acute, service needs. They're all very different. So it's really good to, as a leader, to really be familiar with those policies and regulations that are outlined in these within the long-term care program. So please keep that in mind. And that's what we do, is just to provide that training to you all. If you have any feedback, if you have any questions, concerns related to some of these policies, if you're part of the reviewing of these new policies or updates and policies, please provide feedback from the tribal perspective. It's really important that you are participating in that, because it really does bring that awareness of what is going on in those communities and how these policies are impacting the tribal communities. So just please be, participating in those areas. And I always say too, the only way that we can resolve some of these issues and barriers is not by complaining. Please bring factual basis. This is what's going on in the community, but do your research on your end to what is the tribe doing about those barriers within our community? If there are restrictions that the tribe has put up, please make sure that you're advocating at the tribal level because of tribal sovereignty. We at the state level can provide only a certain amount of support. It's really up to your tribal leadership to be able to hear you out, to understand the barriers, the challenges that you're having, and they will come forward. We have had some really good tribal leadership come forward within the past year that have really expressed the concerns on behalf of the program. They've actually are starting to improve. They're getting more involved in the program. And as for any community, no matter what ethnicity you come from, we really value our elders. We've learned a lot from them. Culturally, we know what our elders need, languages that we speak, and that's the reason why the IGAs are very unique. And it's really specifically designed to work with those members within your tribal community. And of course, those agreements are made between the tribal leadership and these leadership who have been designated to understand those the barriers and challenges within the community. And also these leadership also seek this team, their advice on what is going on in the community, what are some of the issues and concerns that you have. So they're there to listen to this program and listen to the leadership within the program. But all we do is we follow along with what your leadership agrees to. What do they want? What do they need? Have they been listening to you? Such as the high caseload ratio that has continued to come up to us. There have been some adjustments that were made within the tribal long-term care program. That is something that you really need to speak to your leadership about and discuss it with your leadership. What are they providing to the state? What type of feedback are they providing to the state? What are they submitting factual basis of why they determine they're going to make a different decision based on what's in the policy? And where is it at that the tribe is wanting to work on within the program too? Because we know with the person-centered planning tool, it's over 29 pages, depending on who's printing it, or how it's being utilized. It is a lot of pages. It has increased from the 6-pager assessment into a longer document. We've had some feedback asking, from case managers, this is very lengthy. It's cumbersome. It takes a lot of time. You have to take travel into consideration. These are some things that, you all are being challenged with. And it's really up to the program to decide how they are going to ensure that the team has the appropriate equipment that they need to conduct these person-centered service planning reviews with their members, and making sure that they're aligning and asking these questions and doing follow-up on some of these questions and concerns members have had. So please be mindful of that. And that's pretty much what I wanted to kind of say before I start my presentation, because with the operational reviews, we are starting to see some of the areas where there are challenges already with a couple of the reviews that we've had. Not to say that these programs are not doing good at all. That's not what I'm saying. It's across the board, even verbally, what's being communicated to us without even conducting a review. The operational review. So that's what I kind of wanted to go over moving forward from today. Please, look at it as leadership. Please review some of the areas that I really want to talk about today when you're reviewing your quarterly audits, the supervisory audits. I know some case managers, supervisors have a very high caseload, so they can't really audit, more than 10. Some barely even audit 5 cases. But when you have a huge population and you as a leader are doing your quarterly audits and you're only reviewing 5, you don't get a clear picture of what your program is doing. You know, what are they doing? What are my case managers doing? Am I, you know, mindful of going in there, reviewing their cases and providing that technical assistance that my case managers need, so that when audit comes around, you know what's going on with that case file. So that's what I really wanted to talk about today, because, you know, with the audits barely starting off, you know, those are some concerns and you know, topics that my team kind of seen as they were starting to review. So if you could go to the next slide. Charlie, are you able to go to the next slide? Or am I frozen? Oh, there you go. Okay. So with the audits, the notifications will be sent out 2 weeks prior to the on-site review. And notification basically is just a letter to let you know what is going to be, when we're going out there, some of the areas that we're going to be reviewing, or just a notification that the team will be going out there, what the team is going to need when we do go out to do the audits. The random list will be sent the day before the audits. We want to see, we should always be ready. I mean, the program should always be ready and prepared for an audit or access requesting information from you. It should always be available. There has been instances where we've heard such and such case managers on vacation. Their files are locked up in their desk, so we can't get to it. Just letting you all know, if we're not able to get that case file in every area's standards that are out there outlined in the audits, that you will be cited for it. So just make sure that whoever is going on vacation, if you are aware that if you have a process, a standard process within your office, that case managers hold on to their cases, they lock it up in their own file and they take the key with them. Whatever your internal process is, just be mindful once the letter goes out that you are able to access those files, so that way they can be available on the day of the audit, just so that it doesn't affect your end results of the audit. So please keep that in mind as leadership. That you'll get that notification. The random list will not be provided to you until the day before the audit. And then as for the operational review response, there will be a 6 to 8 week, 8 weeks to close out. We were anticipating that it would be available. The numbers, the calculations are available within 2 weeks, but it does take time to do the closeout, to write it up, to make sure that we're addressing all areas. And also as leadership, we're going back through, what our team has audited. We're making sure what they've documented, are their documentation provided, and where they're citing, making sure, because I did address quite a bit of our team members are new to the audit. So, making sure and letting them know and educating them that the programs, they know the long-term care very well. There will be challenges that we might receive from some of the programs. So making sure that whatever we're citing on, that we do have proper documentation within the audit documentation, because those are filed in the event that we do get audited by CMS. We have those documents available to CMS to ensure that we are complying with our audit processes too. So all of those have to align. So we have to make sure that we have time to review and make sure we have an accurate amount of time to review and close out the audit, before we actually do provide a response to you. So just please keep that in mind, 6 to 8 weeks. I know there's a couple of them that has already been closed out. We kind of went beyond probably 6 to 8 weeks, or we're bumping up really close to it. So just letting you know that I did let the team members know that from today on, make sure we get these closed out within the next 6 to 8 weeks, and to provide you all with a response because we do need to give you time to respond on it too. So those will all be outlined in the letter that you receive on what our findings were. And again, you should be receiving it within the next 8 weeks. And moving forward, any of you that get audited will at least give us about 8 weeks to close it out. We were doing a closing at the site, but moving forward, we've ran into quite a bit of challenges. So, we do have team members who are also virtual. So what we might be doing is the plan is to start sending a couple of people, 3 to 4 people out there just to make copies of the files, complete copies of the case file. They will be bringing it back to the state. We will actually have to scan them in so everyone can do a virtual audit and have that opportunity to start, virtually auditing these cases. And I think it's going to make it a little bit more simple and easier to go through. So those were some changes that we have made internally, another process, because we're all in this virtual world now. So we just have to kind of, how are we going to improve our process? We're always thinking about how we're going to improve our process and how we're going to work as a team internally, and what type of support do we need to provide to our team internally who's actually doing the audits. There are people who are actually wanting to learn more about the audits. We have nurses on our staff team that really do want to know. They're wanting to provide that assistance and support to the Tribal ALTCS program. So, we're kind of recruiting as we're moving along, doing this during this operational review. So one of the, I know Cheryl did a really good job about her presentation related to, person-centered planning. We do see in the Exhibit 16, 2010, that long document, and there's so many areas that case managers now have to follow up on. And, we all know, and as much training as we provided, that the plan has to be developed through an assessment and, to obtain the functional needs that reflect the services and support, whether it's paid or unpaid. We need to make sure that we're walking through the assessment with the member, being mindful, being person-centered, what's important to the member, what's important for the member, knowing the difference between the two, and, meeting those needs for the members based on their preference on how they want the service to be delivered to them. And I know at times it could be challenging. We've already heard, there are sometimes healthcare decision makers who are making all these decisions for the member. There are other maybe providers who kind of chime in and say this is what the member needs, even though the case manager is aware of what the member's needs are based on the assessment that they have conducted. So it's very, very important that they document the conversation, and it will actually help you as a program too, that you are addressing these areas and you're documenting areas of where your case managers have had a conversation. In the event that there is a quality of care concern that comes up, in the event that there is a member complaint that comes up, it's clearly documented in this assessment, where you as a leader would go back to the assessment. If your case manager is out on the field, you can really just pull this file and see what has transpired, that you can provide a response back to Access to address those concerns that come up. And so it's, even though it may be a lengthy document, it could save you as a program or the complaint. There could be justification on the complaint. So making sure that they're actually completing those assessments the best that they can. And of course, many of our case managers and the caseload that your case managers have, it's not not every case on their caseload is a brand new member. Many of these case managers have had this member on their caseload for years. They've built a rapport with this member. They've actually seen the member either, slowly declining, or they could have seen the member improving. This document is really, really good to really track and help that case manager to provide that support to the member in the event that if there are services that need to increase or services that need to decrease based on what the relationship they built with this member, they would know where to take action utilizing this tool. So it's not just a question or a check off box here and there and just go through this assessment tool. We always have to remember that it should reflect the member's strengths. It should reflect the member's preference. You know, that's probably kind of hard to swallow in some cases where we feel, oh yeah, the member just is wanting this. The members, it's other people making decision, or it's not appropriate, or maybe there are some risk. Even though they prefer a certain type of services, there could be risk involved in it. And making sure that you're educating the member, case managers are educating the member. I know this is your preference, but for this specific reason, it could be a risk. And I want you to make sure that you understand the risk, and the case managers identifying the risk, documenting the risk, and then providing some sort of support to say, you know, like Cheryl had a really good example. Are there things that they can do to avoid these risks? You know, documented the conversation happened. This is the type of, you know, the conversation went this way. These are the type of support you provided to the member. Those are discussed. And yes, that does take longer, a little bit longer. But again, the relationship has already been built with this member. So you really have the case managers have a relationship with that member to know exactly what's going on, who's moving into the home, who's now living with the member. You know, they know pretty much a lot of things about the member and their situation, who's all involved in the care for that member, whether it's paid or unpaid support that's being provided. So, you know, through the IGA, you know, it is outlined in there that you as the program, you know, workers, you know, making sure that you're meeting those members' needs socially and culturally. There's every single one of our members within the different programs. We have different types of cultural practices, participation, you know, that we have understanding that member and knowing what their preference and needs are when there's coordination of care that needs to happen, or just even providing those goals, you know, as simple as member was placed in a SNF, and maybe that SNF closes their door and doesn't open their doors until a certain time in the morning, but this member is so used to waking up at, you know, 4 or 5 in the morning and going out to do their morning prayers. That's something that you are aware of as a case manager, you and your team, or educating your team. Everyone's preference, cultural preference is different. And we have to be able to ensure that we're helping the member or educating the member of why. Maybe that facility that you place the member at, maybe you need to ask questions before you place the member. What do they have available? Do they have any cultural activities available within that facility? You know, what is available to that member, making sure and working through those facilities, building a relationship with those providers that you work with, building and establishing that relationship with providers and knowing, oh, that's a good place to send our members to, being mindful of that. The language, you know, pair up your members with, you know, case managers that can understand, speak the language to where they're able to communicate that, and be more person-centered when it comes to that. Because sometimes for many of us, we know that one word we say in English could be a long sentence, or it could be a paragraph, and it turns into a bigger discussion. Making sure that you're pairing up your case managers with the members so that they're able to express their needs and understand that they're being heard, and that you're collaborating with this member in that way. And then goals. We did go over that in depth of goals. Hopefully there was no questions, really no questions. So I'm thinking everyone understands goals, and, you know, tracking the goals with just kind of going through some of the areas. There was, you know, programs that do really good on explaining goals from what we're seeing with the PA requests that are coming in, whether it's on-site reviews that we're doing or just communications about goals. We are seeing some are really good, identifying goals, prioritizing goals, and always remember the outcome. Follow up with an outcome. Was that a good goal? Can we change the goal now because that goal just doesn't seem like the members getting the support they need? So is there something else? And what is the barrier in making sure that that goal, if it's very important to the member, what is it that you're doing or that your case manager can do with the resources that are available in your community to ensure that, these goals are being met? And it doesn't always have to be a medical goal. It could be a personal goal that these members have, and identifying it and following through. And what is the desired outcome? What is their dream? It may take years, but following and doing that follow-up, we know then that you are going in there, your case managers are asking questions, and there's follow-ups to their questions, and goals are being met. So, and discussing those goals with the member. And then one area that I really need you all to do when you're doing your either your meetings with your case managers, I don't know if you have monthly meetings, quarterly meetings, whatever meetings that you have, or maybe you want to go back now after this meeting and you want to talk to your team members about looking at the section on the PCSP, the risk factors. Are there any risk that they have identified? Whether it's provider, medication, maybe in the home, there's risk for falls, like Cheryl mentioned. Are there any other risk? Like even with one was mentioned to us, incontinence is not on there. There are risks related to that. Is there something that the member needs to do to kind of assist the case manager to ensure that, we follow up? This could turn into a big risk. All those things that is not listed that the case manager sees as a risk can be identified in other, and not just in the case notes, but identify as in other. And then what are the follow-ups? Is there, what are the measures that are put in place? Is there a backup plan to that risk? And are there other strategies or other people that can help out to ensure those risks are being addressed and worked on with the member or any healthcare decision maker or other people who are involved in coordinating care for the member? So please make sure that was a big area that we're really concerned about. Make sure that there's follow-ups on those risks. So that was one of the areas, just kind of some follow-up. So any of you that have not have been reviewed already through the OR, these are some things that we're seeing moving forward. And then for those other ones, we have already gone through these sections, and we provided some support and provided some feedback to you too. So please, if there's any other questions outside of, within this topic, please let us know, and we can kind of provide a little bit more support to you and your team. Next slide. That might be the last one. Wow, we were done almost 12 o'clock. So, I do appreciate all of you, attending this meeting. It's very imperative that supervisors attend these meetings, obtain the information they need to be able to perform the duties that are outlined in the intergovernmental agreement. Again, when you go through, I always encourage everyone, within the program, get familiar with the IGA. Know what your tribal leadership agreed to. And if there is anything that we can do at the state level to provide that support to you, please let us know. We'll do the best that we can. Again, because the tribes are a sovereign nation, your leadership, they're the ones who say how the program runs within your community. They're the ones who say what providers come into the community to provide services. So your leadership is the one you really need to go through to say, hey, these are requirements, not only at the state level, but some of these are federal requirements that we have to follow. So please make sure and look at it, or we're having challenges in this area because you put this requirement up within the tribal community. We really need you to make sure that you address those concerns, because it does impact our case managers from coordinating those services within our community. So please make sure that you're advocating for your case managers, you're advocating for your members. It just makes things a little bit more easier. It cannot always be easy, but it just makes it a little bit easier for those members to receive services in the community. So are there any questions from anyone? I know Sonny has her hands raised, but I would like to give the floor to the programs first before you make a comment. Are there any questions, any concerns? Is there another area we need to cover for you, or is there any support that you all might need when we're talking about PCSP, because that's a big part of the OR as we move forward. We utilize that tool. If there's any other questions that, I mean, if you haven't thought of it yet, or if you think of it, please send it over to Sonny and her team, and they'll try to provide a response to you. And sometimes it gets escalated to my level. Please let them know what your issues and concerns are, and we'll do the best that we can to provide that support to you all. Go ahead, Sonny.
Okay. The one thing that we did notice in the audits is, and this was brought up to me just a minute ago, is that we were seeing copying and pasting from one PCSP to another, and it's sometimes it not being really relevant to the current PCSP. Maybe it was. So just be really mindful of that. Don't just copy and paste information from one to another unless you know it applies to the current situation that's going on right there.
So Sonny, Nayana had a question. So these are the areas we are going to be audited on.
Yes, the areas that you talked about, and yes, goals are showing up on the audit. And those are really important. I know you guys have said that you guys have a really, the member has to have some sort of a goal. You've got to talk to the member about it. So there's something, you listening to them, as you're listening to them talk, something will trigger, can we make that a goal? They may not have a goal per se to say, and one of you noted before that members don't understand goals. And that could very well be. Maybe it needs to be rephrased in a way that they would understand. Is there something you would like to do? Is there something, and I always go back to my mother, and I took care of her. I was her main caregiver. The one thing she liked to do, and I made it part of her, she was on long-term care, is on a weekly basis, we went out, and every week we went out and got her an ice cream cone. That may not sound like much of a goal, but guess what? It is. It made her happy. What is it that's going to help those members feel good? Something, and some of it is probably going to be medical, but some of it is going to be more on a personal level. And that's why it's person-centered. What is it, as you're listening to them, something? So you said, even if your phrase as is, what would you like to do? Okay, well, maybe just get them to talk about things that they used to do. What did you used to do? And pretty soon that will trigger something. So that'll trigger something. What was it you used to do? What did you like to do? Maybe that's, and some of those, if you go to the PCSP, some of them have questions in there that you can ask. But sometimes you may, you know, that those are really kind of generic. You may have to be more specific with our members because to get to draw them out. What was it, you know, maybe just it sounding interested in something they used to do will draw them out to say something that will trigger in your mind, oh, that could be a trick. So yeah, it's not to be left blank, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of little pointer questions. You know, they don't have to be asked the member verbatim as it's listed on the PCSP. I know that on page 3 of the PCSP, there's a couple of questions there. We're not saying ask each, and as you all were trained, many of you were trained on the PCSP. These were just some questions that you could ask, you know, or you could rephrase these questions. Very funny, before I give it to Yvonne real quick. My dad used to always say, I make my dad an example, we all do. He used to always say, Anina, you know, when I was younger, I used to like to do this, you know, and some of them were crazy stuff, you know, and we would just laugh about it. And, you know, he would say, you know, you know, he used to call or go see this lady in White River, you know, and he really liked to go see her because she made good bread. And they have this big event that he goes to, and she always used to invite him to, you know, this event, and where he could eat the bread and the cultural food there in White Mountain. And it used to really, it made me laugh, but I felt, wow, he's so sincere about this. So I actually had to reach out to one of the neighbors, you know, and ask him, hey, can you take my dad there? You know, he likes to do this and he wants to do this. And he started enjoying, you know, going out there. They started going together, and they had great stories about going out there, eating the cultural food. So just those were goals. I mean, even though we think that it's not possible to do, just having that discussion and talking about, because our members do have a lot of stuff to share with us. You know, culturally, they maybe want to participate in ceremonies again, but they can't because there's nobody to take them. You know, or maybe there's an event going on that they remember and they want to participate in them. Maybe they want to be part of the chapter meetings. Maybe they want to, you know, be heard of and express their opinions and their concern of what's going on within their community and help make those decisions. They always have a goal of some sort, even as simple as, like Sonny said, getting ice cream, you know. Maybe there's a goal they have. Maybe that's an incentive to the goal, you know. So just having that conversation with the member, and because we all have wants, we all have needs. We can't say we don't look forward to tomorrow. You know, we all have wants and we all have needs. And, you know, like Cheryl said, what do you want your life to be like? You know, not everybody's going to say, I don't care about life anymore. You know, there are people who have, why are you depressed? Or what's going on? How are you feeling? What can I do to help you? And maybe make that a goal, you know, and we'll talk about this at our next meeting. Let me know how a goal goes. If you need help, you can always call me. I'll try to do the best I can to help you to get those resources and things that you need. So it's a conversation. And that's what the PCSP is. So I'll hand this over to Yvonne. Maybe she can enlighten us with more.
Thank you. About the goals, when I first started ALTCS 7 years ago, I can't believe it's 7 years ago now, that the goals was repeated constantly. The same old, can't walk, can't do this, but they leave the suggestions or writing out what can be done about it was repeated. But I informed them the goal is, even though maybe there was no improvement, what they had suggested to improve it is always try to find another way to improve it. Just like UTIs, this lady is always getting UTIs. What have you done about it? Take her to the bathroom frequently and make sure that she wipes herself properly from front to back instead of other way around. Watch her, have the caretaker watch her. Fluid. But the thing is, though, that could be another measurement. Like if it's no improvement, you put down not 100% improvement, but it's seeing some improvement. That's better than no improvement whatsoever. And so I always recommend PT. PT can help many aspects of the body to improve the mobility, speech, even help with the muscles of the bladder. There's many other things that you can do physically to help besides the norm of taking them to the bathroom. So it takes a while, but what I see is I'd like to see some improvement, what they have done for this client instead of no improvement whatsoever. It's better than have something than none. Thank you.
That's very true. Thank you, Yvonne. Yes. Okay, Lakeisha. Yes, I also look at what the member is currently doing to improve or maintain their health, continuing. That could be a goal. Yes, there definitely could be health with our members. They're elderly. There could definitely be health needs and goals. Maybe maybe they've been in a wheelchair. Maybe they want to be able to walk a little more or have somebody walk with them to do something, use the walker more. There can be all kinds of goals. You just have to think of it from the member's perspective.
Well, the good thing about our program is that, you know, with the IGA, and we talk about it a lot. We even do that when we do our opening for these meetings. We really make it culturally based. You know, we ask for things that we do, our practices within our community, how we celebrate, how we recognize, how we work as a community and a network community, you know, how we support each other. It's different. Our cultural practices are different, you know, and how we get together and what we do to those social events that we have in our community. And even just our upbringing, our stories. Maybe somebody's a storyteller. You know, those are important. You know, I used to love to record my dad telling cultural stories, and which is what I go back and I look at and I listen to it, and it brings me joy. You know, and him telling those crazy stories. I've recorded him, and he tells me stuff. It's just listening to them. It takes time, but then they've already built that relationship. And so it's really important. And I would like to see that, you know, because we always say, you don't understand, Access doesn't understand the barriers we have out there. You know, our members have a specific need that's culturally related. We'll document those things. What are some goals related to that? You know, you only pay for attendant care services, but they want to participate in this, but it's not possible. We can't. Those all can be documented. So that really does shine and make you all look like in a program which is really, really culturally sensitive to outline those things. And those are goals related specifically, not only to, you know, what is the cultural practices within the community, but really catering to that member to know that we're listening to them, we're hearing them, we're addressing them, and we're helping them to reach those goals. So please keep that in mind, maybe coming from that aspect. I can't speak for every tribe, but that's why you guys are the subject matter expert within your communities and the communities that you service. Learn more about those communities, learn more about the resources available, find out what's going on in the community, events, things that you want to participate in, and provide those resources to your members. Maybe they might want to be involved. Maybe they might want to participate. You know, get out there and start letting the programs know these are what we have available to you all as our community members. And I think that's really going to help to kind of build more and, you know, on recognizing how you can support the members within the community. So thank you very much for all the input. Continue brainstorming. If you want to reach out to each other, please do so. Work together. If you heard something today, you want to reach out to that person. Maybe there was a comment of challenge. How did you guys overcome that challenge? How did it work? What did you have to do? Please network with each other, work together, and then we're always here to provide that support too. So if there's no other questions, If you want to provide questions after this and you thought of something, please make sure and send us an email, and either we'll put it on the next quarterly meeting agenda, or if you do need, and which I'm really starting to encourage my team to do, is if you want a specific training for an office or your program specifically, and if you need my team to be there to help you to present, please send us a letter, a letter with your signature on it with the letterhead, and let us know what trainings you need, so that way we can provide that support in between the quarterly meetings, and they can actually be able to participate and help you to provide that information to your leadership and to provide that information to the community that you're servicing. So thank you very much. I really appreciate everyone attending, and your participation is always valued here at Access. So if there's nothing else, I would like to say thank you. And in closing, if you had to travel to one location to attend this meeting with the other members of your program, travel safe home. And if not, just please keep it in mind that these presentations are posted online, minutes are posted online, and the resources that we have here is always available to you guys.
Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. Your participation has been great, and we really appreciate your feedback. As Rachel said, thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day.
Yes, have a great day.
Thank you.